He was a pathetic orphan whose parents got isekai'd by demons. Now he's broke, can't afford food, and can't pay for anything. To earn, he slays demons with his insanely hot demon girlfriend, who gets stronger every time she kisses him. Also, unlike you, he's surrounded by total baddies who all want to marry him, and he can clap them anytime he wants. One busy afternoon in the lively city of Bayonne, a demon girl named Kizara was heading over to Shu's place, which also doubled as her workplace. When she arrived, she found the door locked. Not letting that stop her, she used her powers to phase through the wall and get inside. She had one goal in mind: cook a nice meal for Shu. But as she looked around, she noticed that the power had been cut off. Turns out, Shu hadn't paid the electricity bill for over 3 months. Still, Kizara wasn't the type to give up easily, so she decided to make dinner anyway using candlelight. Meanwhile, Shu was chilling at a local restaurant where he bumped into his ex, Ayano. She sat across from him and watched in disbelief as he devoured food like he hadn't eaten in days. Knowing he was broke, she paid for his lunch. Of course, she couldn't help scolding him for not having a real job. But Shu, being Shu, ignored all that and quickly switched the topic to avoid talking about how much of a mess his life was. After the meal, he left and started walking back to his apartment. When he got there, Kizara was already waiting, and she'd set up a romantic-looking dinner by candlelight, though it wasn't romantic at all. They were just that broke. Shu, still stuffed from lunch, tried to dodge eating. He lied and said he'd been eating out because of work. Kizara, clearly frustrated, got emotional and said she had been sick for 3 days but still went through the trouble of making dinner for him. That guilt tripped Shu enough to sit down and finally eat. Just then, the doorbell rang. Shu rushed over and found a delivery guy holding a huge package, something he had ordered earlier in the week. But since he didn't have the money to pay, Kizara stepped in and paid for it. Later, she reminded him that she only had 1 month of living money left, and now even that was gone. She got all dramatic and joked that they should just drink poison and be done with it. She even took a photo of them with a poison bottle and posted it to Instagram. Her only follower? Shu. He told her to stop being so extra and promised to return the money the next day. Later on, Shu logged into a virtual program, joining a digital meeting full of other leaders of private military companies like his own. They were all there to bid on a new demon elimination job. A host showed footage of a Class C demon and said the lowest bidder would win the assignment. As expected, companies began throwing out offers like $120,000 and higher. Shu undercut them all, offering over 50% less than everyone else. He won the job but made a bunch of enemies in the process. Afterward, Shu contacted Ayano's mom's company for help. She agreed, but at a heavy price. Shu then met up with Ayano outside a hotel where the demon was supposedly hiding. They went in with a small squad, but as they got close, the door exploded clearly. The demon didn't want visitors. Peeking in, Shu saw a swarm of smaller demons. He rushed in with the team, and they started fighting off the minions first. Once they were dealt with, Shu asked Ayano to cover him as he tried to take out the main demon. He managed to land a hit, but the demon didn't even flinch. Instead, it punched Shu so hard he went flying. Just as the demon launched another attack to finish Shu off, Kizara arrived like a whirlwind and sliced the monster's arm clean off, saving him once again. The demon, now angry, summoned even more underlings. Kizara rushed forward to take on the big guy herself, but she got blasted back easily and collapsed next to Shu. She told him she hadn't fought in months and had no energy left. According to their weird contract likely made by some loser, she could only use her full powers after getting a kiss. Shu kissed her, and boom, she transformed into her powerful demon form. The demon kept sending minions, but this time Kizara destroyed them like it was nothing. She and Ayano fought together, wiping out the rest of the monsters. During the chaos, Kizara bumped into Ayano and immediately picked up on a familiar smell, the same one she noticed on Shu the night before. She instantly realized Shu had lied about dinner and had been with Ayano. Furious, Kizara made a sarcastic comment about cats licking someone else's milk. Then, in a rage, she went into beast mode, slicing through every enemy in sight. After wiping out the minions, Kizara and Ayano came face to face again. Neither of them liked the other, and after some trash talk, they started fighting. Kizara tried to cut Ayano, who dodged and fired back. Kizara avoided the bullet with ease. Their intense showdown forced Shu to jump in and try to stop them before things got worse. But Kizara was already mad. She assumed Shu liked Ayano more because of her bigger gifts, and started swinging at him out of jealousy. Shu kept dodging like his life depended on it. To calm her down, he handed over his apartment key, which worked like magic. That small gesture made her ridiculously happy. With her mood fixed, she focused back on the real fight. Kizara and Ayano teamed up to beat the demon once and for all. Ayano struck the first blow with her sword, and Shu finished the demon off with his gun. Just when they thought it was over, the entire building began shaking. Shu warned everyone to get out fast before the place came crashing down. They all made it out safely, while Kizara stayed behind briefly to cut the falling rubble into smaller chunks, reducing the damage. Ayano watched in awe, thinking even a high-tier demon wouldn't stand a chance against Kizara, who herself was an elite-level demon. The next morning, Shu sat down for breakfast, only to see the same boring food Kizara always made. He sighed, clearly disappointed. He glanced over and saw Kizara working on a laptop. She explained she was trying to set up an online page to make money again, since thanks to Shu's recklessness, all the money they earned had gone into repairs and damages. Later, Kizara moved out temporarily to find a part-time job and earn some cash on her own. At the train station, she ran into her friends who joked about Shu being broke. She laughed it off, saying he was her photographer and would help her go viral online. Suddenly, a flashy blonde guy named Mikhail, student council president, and the mayor's son showed up. He clearly had a huge crush on Kizara and invited her to a fancy party that night. But Kizara walked away without saying much. Meanwhile, Shu went looking for Ayano at the gym, where she was working out. He begged her to get him a job or talk to someone at her mom's company. She told him that his way of fighting caused way too much destruction and gave the company a bad reputation. Still, he pleaded with her and promised he wouldn't stalk her again. Feeling a little soft, she decided to give her mom a call to ask for help. But just as she pulled out her phone, she saw an Instagram post from Kizara posing with Shu in his apartment. That made Ayano furious, and she immediately told Shu to get lost. Later that evening, over at Allah Defender & Co., Ayano's mom was talking with the mayor's secretary. He mentioned that there might be an assassination attempt on the mayor, possibly by a demon. They asked her to send a team just in case. At first, she was unsure, but then she thought of Shu and how badly he needed work. So she agreed to the mission and sent Shu, Kizara, Ayano, and her squad to handle the threat. Later, Shu was standing guard in one of the hallways when an old familiar face walked up to him. It was Miles, the bald guy who looked after him when his parents passed away. They started chatting about demons and life, and in the middle of it, Miles handed Shu a large black cigarette. He told Shu to drop by their neighborhood for dinner sometime because the crew missed him. But Shu, in full degenerate mode, ignored the invite and just asked for more smokes like his lungs didn't matter. Meanwhile, inside the party hall, Kizara was having the time of her life. She was surrounded by mountains of food, and she couldn't believe her luck. Sneakily, she pulled out a small food container hidden in her skirt, planning to pack up some leftovers for later. But before she could start scooping anything, Mikhail suddenly popped up next to her. He began bragging about how much money he could throw at her. Thankfully, the mayor stepped in and started his speech, which was being broadcast to every corner of the city. As expected, he was saying all the usual garbage, talking big about equal rights, job opportunities, and a better future. You know, classic shady politician talk. Suddenly, Shu spotted a furious demon glaring at the mayor like he wanted to turn him into a headline. The demon planned to make a scene on live TV by killing the mayor, claiming he was doing it to make a statement as a proud Sigma male. Most demons lose all sense of humanity after turning, but this one was still talking and thinking like a regular person. He phased right through a wall behind the mayor and was just about to stab him from behind when Kizara noticed something was off. She bolted toward the stage, tackled the demon away, and slammed him into a nearby column. Ayano and her squad immediately jumped into attack. Ayano told her team to lock the place down as the demon tried to escape. She chased after him, but her dress got caught, so without hesitation, she shot off half of it like an action movie heroine and sprinted after him in beast mode. The demon kept slipping through walls, but Kizara kept right on him, phasing through too. She appeared in front of him and swung, but he dodged her strike and blocked incoming bullets before diving through the floor. Luckily, Ayano was already downstairs and blasted him twice in the head. The demon dropped but stood back up and vanished through the wall again, only to sneak behind her for a surprise attack. But Kizara showed up just in time and booted him away. Ayano rushed him and pointed her gun, but the demon suddenly started speaking again. He said he just wanted to expose the mayor for being a filthy old creep. Ayano hesitated, realizing this demon hadn't completely lost his mind. But that tiny pause gave him just enough time to vanish through the floor again. Kizara snapped at Ayano, furious that she let the guy slip away. Back upstairs, Shu finally decided to be useful. He smashed through a window like an idiot and confronted the demon inside a server room, with Kizara arriving soon after. The two of them cornered the demon, preparing to finish the fight. Just then, Shu got a call from Ayano's mom. She told him that this demon's brain was still human and that he must be captured alive, no killing allowed. That was a huge problem since neither Shu nor Kizara had the gear to take down a demon without lethal force. Kizara suggested hitting him with the blunt end of her sword, but it was still risky. Shu, being completely unprepared, jumped online and started browsing weapons on Amazon. Kizara stopped him, saying the price of the equipment matched the entire payout for this mission. While they argued over cash, the demon used their distraction to escape by jumping out of the building. Shu and Kizara ran to the window. Kizara reminded him that if he bought the tool, they'd be eating air sandwiches for the next month. Shu looked at her and told her he'd just take more spicy pics of her to boost her online following. That convinced her. They placed the order. Amazingly, Amazon's hyper-fast delivery came through. As soon as the demon hit the ground, a delivery truck zoomed in and smashed into him, knocking him out. Shu climbed down, and a confident woman stepped out of the truck and handed him the fancy demon-capturing gadget which they didn't even need anymore. The demon was tied up and sent straight to the hospital. Kizara and Shu headed home. A few days later, Shu had a terrifying dream. In it, he saw his little sister Kana, frightened and all alone. She was crying and calling out for their parents and him. Suddenly, a sword pierced through her stomach, and some sort of curse began to enter her body. Before things got worse, Shu woke up in a panic. Just like any homesick loser in the big city, he missed his mom, dad, and baby sister. Still shaken, he reached for a family photo but saw that Kizara had taped her own picture into the frame, pretending to be part of the family. Annoyed, Shu tried to peel it off. Elsewhere, in some shady underground lab, a man carrying a metal box was running for his life while getting chased by armed officers. The cops had strict orders: recover the core at any cost. They opened fire, and the man dropped the box as he fell to the ground. As he lay there, his phone rang. A voice on the line reminded him that no normal person could have pulled this mission off. The voice explained that it had created 3 emergency backup plans for him, rank B, C, and D, based on his soul's budget. The man ignored the lecture and screamed into the phone that he wanted the strongest one. Suddenly, his phone started glowing with strange energy. Back in Shu's apartment, it was another candlelit night as always. Kizara checked her phone and announced that the entire city had lost power. Shu looked shocked and joked that maybe now the whole city was broke like them. Kizara added that even the trains had stopped and wondered if she'd be able to go to school the next day. Just then, a letter arrived at their door. Shu opened it and read it quickly. Then he turned to Kizara and told her that, honestly, she might not be going to school anymore. The next morning, a private meeting was held in the mayor's office with 2 government agents. They were talking about a dead worker from a barren city power plant. One official said the man might have been a foreign spy. The other added he could have been after the city's special tech, something called refined orgonium. They explained that Barren City was originally built for mining this rare energy source. The city used cutting-edge systems and tech that most other countries were desperate to steal. In the past 5 years, 30 spies had snuck into the city. One of them even created a demon disaster. Since they couldn't hide something this big from the public, the official gave the mayor a pre-written story to help cover it up, then handed him a letter to sign so they could move forward with the lie. While all that was going on, Shu met Ayano at a park. She asked why he dragged her out there, saying she'd left work to see him and didn't want her time wasted. She looked at her outfit, a little revealing, and awkwardly asked if she really wore that to work. Ayano rolled her eyes and said she just rushed over without changing. She told him to cut the nonsense and explain what he wanted. Shu pulled out a secret photo of a massive B-class monster that looked like a giant caterpillar. He said that even though it looked huge, he and Kizara could handle it easily. Ayano asked if he planned to kill the thing, and Shu said he wouldn't let her down. But like any ex still holding a grudge, Ayano started listing all the times he messed up, skipping her birthday, ditching a date to go party, quitting his job without warning, and replacing her with a demon girl as a partner. Shu was completely lost. He didn't even remember most of that. Still, he apologized for hurting her. Hiding nearby behind a waterfall, Kizara had overheard the whole conversation. Later on, Shu showed up at another demon hunting auction, where a group of professional hunters had gathered to bid on the job of taking down a B-rank caterpillar demon. The chief started the bidding at $200,000, but some of the other hunters weren't having it. They argued that the monster was worth at least $500,000. Just like before, Shu had been sitting silently in the back until he suddenly jumped in and slashed the price down way lower than everyone else. This ticked off the other bidders so much that they started whispering about jumping him afterward. Meanwhile, in another room, Miles and his teammate Tetsuya were looking over Shu and Kizara's profiles, analyzing them carefully and chatting about their history. Back in the auction hall, the tension got worse until the auctioneer cut everyone off and announced that the bidding was now cancelled. A new update had just come in. The caterpillar demon had apparently swallowed a highly radioactive energy core, something powerful enough to keep the whole city running for a full week. Now, the mission had changed. Instead of just killing the demon, the hunters had to retrieve the core intact. Despite the new risk, Shu stuck to his original offer and still wanted the job for the same low pay. Everyone stared at him like he was out of his mind. Clearly, only someone flat broke would take a deal like that. Later that day, the crew arrived at the demon's location. Ayano led her squad ahead to try capturing the creature safely. But before they could even get close, the caterpillar transformed into a massive moth-like demon. It wiped out all the drones in seconds, then shifted its focus to the soldiers on the ground, tearing through them easily. Ayano jumped in a car to escape, but the monster kept coming for her. She stood at a distance, watching the chaos unfold like a total bystander. Right then, Kizara showed up behind him. Without saying a word, he kissed her to activate her powers. Now fully charged, she zoomed in just in time to save Ayano. A huge chunk of debris was about to crush her, but Kizara sliced it into pieces mid-air. She flew at the demon, dodging all of its attacks with ease, and stabbed it in the back, forcing it to back off. The moth demon tried to shoot energy beams at her, but she slipped right past them and kept hammering it with her sword, cracking open its tough outer shell. Spotting the opening, Shu pulled out his sniper rifle and landed a clean shot on the exposed part of the demon's body. It staggered back from the impact. The demon, in a desperate move, charged up a massive beam attack to blast everything. But Shu loaded another round and hit the exact same weak point again, this time taking the demon out completely. From a distance, Miles and Tetsuya were watching the whole fight. They couldn't help but admit that, in the end, even the police had to rely on Shu. Back on the battlefield, Kizara was retrieving something from the demon's remains when Ayano walked up and asked if she should thank her. Kizara said it was optional, but in that moment, she accidentally pulled one of Shu's memories from his mind. It was a memory of one of his dates with Ayano, and it made Kizara feel an unexpected wave of guilt. She apologized quietly. The next day, Ayano was sent to the docks to deal with a gang war that had escalated. Two rival mafia groups had clashed, and one side had apparently made a deal with the demon, gaining brutal powers. She stepped into a dark warehouse and found the floor littered with corpses. Some were already dead, others barely alive. As she walked deeper in, a glint caught her eye. It was a gun barrel aimed right at her. A demon hazard opened fire, forcing Ayano to duck for cover. She ordered one of her agents to take a shot with a sniper, while another fired a rocket launcher. The demon was taken down after a heavy assault. Miles later told the team they were lucky this wasn't even a high-tier demon. Otherwise things would have been a lot worse. As the scene settled, Ayano noticed a young man being carried to an ambulance. His girlfriend was screaming in the crowd, begging not to be separated from him. Meanwhile, Shu and Kizara were back home eating another candlelit dinner, since their electricity was still cut. The following day, Shu excitedly told Kizara they were finally going to celebrate with a fancy dinner. Their first real paycheck had hit their account. Just then, a luxury car pulled up outside their building, and out stepped Mikhail, the rich flashy guy from earlier. He'd come to see Kizara again, hoping to impress her with money and status. But Kizara shut him down cold, staying loyal to Shu and telling Mikhail to back off. Mikhail didn't like that one bit. He started getting aggressive with Shu, who barely reacted. At that moment, Kizara spotted Ayano driving by in a car with a man dressed in black sitting beside her. Curious and a bit jealous, Kizara decided to secretly follow them. She tailed them all the way to a park and hid nearby, spying as they had a serious conversation. Then, acting like a creep, she snapped a few photos of them and posted them on Instagram. Shu saw the photos pop up on his phone and rushed to the park. He found Ayano and the man, apologized for Kizara's stalking behavior, and tried to explain. The man introduced himself as Tetsuya, a special agent from the anti-demon task force. He said he was working on a case involving the recent gang chaos, and more importantly, he was also looking into the demon responsible for killing Shu's family. Hearing that, Shu lost it. He turned to Ayano and shouted at her for setting this up behind his back. While he kept ranting about justice and being betrayed, Tetsuya got a call from the police. Tony, the injured guy from the docks, had just been found dead at the hospital. Shu immediately rushed over and met with Miles, who told him that Tony was already dead by the time he arrived. No one knew who did it. The wounds were made with an ordinary knife, and it had the symbol of a rival gang. Later that night, Shu stood outside Ayano's hotel and called her. When she picked up, he apologized for the scene in the park, but Ayano didn't want to hear it. She told him to go home. Shu begged her to team up again, but she snapped, telling him he never thought about how his choices hurt others. She brought up the time she waited for him during their relationship, but he had ditched her to hunt demons. Shu stood there clueless. He didn't remember any of that. That broke Ayano. She turned and ran away in tears. Elsewhere, Tetsuya arrived at a new crime scene where something even darker had happened. The gang members who were suspected of killing Tony had turned on each other. The entire place was wrecked. Bodies were everywhere, and the entire gang seemed to have been wiped out from the inside. At the same time, Ayano was sitting under a bridge, crying alone. Kizara found her there. Calmly, Kizara admitted something shocking: she was the reason Shu had forgotten all those memories. Their contract allowed her to feed on his memories, and she had been deleting the ones about Ayano on purpose so Shu wouldn't fall for her again. Ayano was horrified, but Kizara didn't care. She made it clear that she was keeping Shu to herself like some obsessive maniac guarding her prize. Ayano stood up, disgusted, and told Kizara never to speak to her again. Back in the city, Shu was struggling with everything that had just happened. To clear his mind, he stepped outside for a smoke. While he was standing there, an arrow pierced a trash can next to him, carrying a note. The message revealed the location of the gang's base. Shu didn't hesitate. He grabbed a nearby bike and sped off to the address. When he arrived, the place was crawling with cops. Ignoring them, he barged in, gun ready, looking like a low-budget action hero. Inside, he saw a stunning woman in a red dress cutting through gangsters like it was nothing. One tried to shoot her, but she dodged and slashed his throat without blinking. Shu jumped in, firing at her, but she dodged everything and ran into the men's restroom. He followed only to find the whole place full of mirrors. It was impossible to track anything in there. The woman popped out of one of the reflections, and Shu fired wildly. She dodged again. Thinking fast, he smashed most of the mirrors to limit her tricks. But by the time he was done, she had vanished. Tetsuya showed up right after and joined Shu outside the bathroom. They found a wounded gang member still barely alive. They asked him if there were any demon hazards involved in Tony's gang. The man dropped one last shocking truth: the demon who wiped them out wasn't part of any gang. It was Tony's girlfriend. She had been the one behind everything, out for blood, not business. As Ayano was heading back home that night, she suddenly found herself face to face with the same dangerous demon woman that Shu had been tracking for days. The demon jumped straight at her, claws ready. But just in time, Kizara appeared out of nowhere and blocked the attack, saving Ayano from getting hurt. Shu, who happened to be on a call with Kizara during the chaos, heard the struggle, but before anyone could pin the demon down, she escaped again, disappearing right before their eyes. Kizara quickly handed Ayano a handgun and said they had to act fast before the demon could regroup and come after them again. Just seconds later, Kizara noticed the demon sneaking in through a nearby window right behind Ayano. Before she could react, the demon slashed Ayano's arm. Ayano, despite being injured, gritted her teeth and managed to fire back. Even though both of them tried their best, the demon vanished again, this time slipping into a small mirror on the wall. Kizara didn't hesitate. She dove in after her, chasing her through the reflection, but ended up getting stuck inside the mirror like she was caught in a weird magical trap. Not long after, Shu arrived at the scene along with some officers, only to find a wounded Ayano and Kizara trapped in the mirror, calling for help. Later that night, Shu met up with Detective Tetsuya at a quiet diner. Tetsuya told him that Ayano was now being protected in a secure shelter run by the anti-demon unit. He then asked Shu how he managed to find out about the B-class demon so quickly. Shu, being secretive as always, refused to say anything and brushed it off by saying he had a business to run and couldn't reveal his sources. Meanwhile at the shelter, Ayano's mom, Akino, showed up carrying supplies, some clothes and food. Ayano noticed her mom wouldn't even look her in the eyes. When she asked why, Akino explained that she had been told not to make direct eye contact, as it could somehow attract the demon back to their location. Back at the CAF, Tetsuya opened up more. He told Shu that the city's problems actually started the moment Bond City was founded. According to him, a man named Isamu who used to be a disaster advisor warned the government early on, leading to a full-scale inspection. Shu mentioned that his dad had once told him the same thing, and that within a year, the city was crawling with demons. Ayano was having a similar talk with Akino. She asked about the tragic explosion that had killed Shu's parents and his little sister, Kana, during an auction. Ayano couldn't understand why Shu was even at such a place as a child. Akino explained that it was a public inspection day with hardly any police, so families brought kids like it was a school trip. When Ayano asked more about the mining accident, Akino admitted she didn't know much, only that there had been one survivor, and even now, no one really had answers. But she did say that Shu's father had been blamed for everything, accused of helping demons open a gate into their world. Back at the CAF, Tetsuya started pressing Shu harder. He said whoever was feeding Shu information about that explosion 12 years ago could be the same person who framed his father and might even be using Shu now. Tetsuya asked Shu to share everything he knew, offering to help find the truth, but also warned him, don't trust a voice without a face. Later on, Tetsuya met up with Miles and showed him a photograph, one that Shu and Akino had both flagged as suspicious. The man in the picture was a possible lead, and they had only this one image to go on. The two officers tracked the man's address and headed to the building. Before knocking, Miles warned that informing Shu could ruin their chances. Tetsuya knocked. No answer. So they went in. What they found inside was horrifying. The man was already dead and freshly killed. Tetsuya realized someone had expected them to show up. Miles pointed to the wall, where a message had been written in blood, one more person. Meanwhile, back at the shelter, Ayano was relaxing on the couch, sipping juice. When she heard a sound, she assumed her mom had returned. But it was Shu. Surprised and flustered, she asked why he was there. He said he had just scored a new job and wanted to share the news. Ayano wasn't in the mood and told him to leave. Shu said he couldn't. He needed to capture the demon to get Ayano out of lockdown. Ayano challenged him, was Tetsuya really helping him dig up the truth about his past? And what if the stories were true, that his father had sided with demons? Shu said if it was true, he owed everyone an apology. He explained that his father had trained Akino, who later trained him, and that Akino had cut ties with him once their personal relationship was exposed. Ayano pointed out that they could have just started their own company, but Shu said she was the one who kicked him out. As night crept in, they sat side by side, talking. Shu quietly admitted that he still felt his sister Kana might be alive somewhere. Ayano leaned closer, but didn't want to hear his feelings. She wanted action. She covered his eyes and kissed him. Shu asked why the blindfold, and she replied, to keep the demon away. Then she kissed him again, this time with more passion. That night, the demon broke into the shed where Ayano was staying. It ripped apart everything inside, hunting her down. Kizaru stormed in and launched into a fierce sword fight with the demon, their blades clashing faster than the eye could follow. In the middle of the chaos, Kizaru spotted Ayano hiding. Fueled by jealousy, she suddenly dashed over and headbutted Ayano to the floor. Furious, Kizaru accused her of trying to steal Shu away. Ayano denied it, calling Shu a nobody she'd never be interested in, but Kizaru wasn't buying it. Kizaru warned Ayano to shut it before she shoved her blade down her throat, figuratively, but she meant it. Just then, all the glass in the building shattered. Shu showed up and felt a blade pressed against his back. It was Kizaru. She was shaking with rage and demanded he give her all his energy so she could finish this once and for all. She kissed him hard, draining his energy and even wiping his memories of the night, as their contract allowed. With her power maxed out, Kizaru rushed the demon and launched a devastating combo. The demon blocked most of it, then ducked underground to attack from behind. Just as the demon was about to stab Kizaru from behind, she charged in and elbowed her away. He went for a follow-up punch, but the demon backed off and tried to phase through the wall to escape. Thinking fast, she threw an anti-demon round at her, hitting her square in the chest and freezing her mid-teleport. Kizaru dashed forward and stabbed her right in the same spot, killing her instantly. Weeks passed. Kizaru had disappeared after the fight. She left no notes, no messages. Shu hadn't seen her since. He tried everything to contact her, but she had completely vanished. With no other option, Shu turned his focus to the person who had been secretly feeding him top-level info. He decided to track them down once and for all. One afternoon, he waited at a train station, sitting quietly on a bench. Eventually, the mystery informant appeared and, still keeping his identity hidden, told Shu to check a nearby trash can. Inside, Shu found a tablet. When he turned it on, it played a video of a blonde girl wiping out an entire squad of police and demon hunters. She was terrifyingly powerful. Before Shu could react, the informant bolted. Shu ran after him, but couldn't catch him. Again, the source slipped away. Later that day, Shu attended another auction related to demon cases. There, the same blonde girl was mentioned again. Meanwhile, Ayano was in the middle of a serious talk with her mom, Akino. To her shock, Akino revealed that she belonged to an ancient organization in Europe that had been fighting demons for over 1,000 years. She even admitted that she was the one who brought Shu into the organization and hinted that he once remembered her, even if he didn't anymore. Later, as Shu was heading back home, he got a sudden call from Ayano. She yelled at him to stay far away from his apartment. At first, he thought she was messing around, but the panic in her voice told him otherwise. He dropped everything, pulled out his gun, and got ready. Suddenly, the door to his apartment blew open and he was thrown across the room. The blonde woman from the video, her name was Sharon, stepped inside. She stomped toward Shu like he was trash beneath her boot. He reached for his weapon, but she stomped on his arm and launched another brutal attack, sending him flying. As he lay on the ground, she climbed on top of him and started beating him mercilessly. Just when things looked hopeless, Kizara appeared and slashed at Sharon from behind. Sharon dodged it like it was nothing and landed gracefully across the room. The two women faced off. For the first time, Kizara looked nervous. Sharon called her the strongest demon slayer, and then demanded she hand over her sword. Sharon smugly reminded her of their past. She had already beaten Kizara once before. Kizara replied that last time they fought, Shu had been fighting beside Sharon. 3 years ago, in a flashback, Sharon and Shu were in a deadly fight against Kizara. Kizara had Shu pinned and was about to cut his throat when Sharon suddenly stabbed her through the stomach with her sword. Shu, shocked and angry, yelled at Sharon, asking what the heck she was doing. But before she could explain, Kizara came back at them, full of rage. The fight kept going until Sharon kicked Kizara hard and trapped her using some kind of magic cage. Now in the present, Sharon and Kizara stood facing each other again. The air between them was full of tension. Suddenly, they both jumped in and started fighting. Their power was almost equal, and neither of them was holding back. But then Ayano showed up with backup, and Sharon used that moment to escape. Right after that, Kizara ran over to Shu, who was passed out on the ground. She leaned in to kiss him, but Ayano grabbed her by the hair and told her to chill out. Later that day, Shu was lying in a hospital bed, still unconscious. Kizara and Ayano stayed with him, waiting and hoping he'd wake up. But Kizara suddenly got a message on her phone and quietly left without saying anything. She followed the location to an old, empty building. When she got there, she checked her phone again and then it rang. It was Sharon. Sharon mocked her over the phone, calling her a loser with nobody who truly cared about her. Kizara quickly figured out it was a trap. She summoned her sword and got ready to fight. But before she could find where Sharon was hiding, a bullet hit her from above. Kizara barely dodged the next shot and took cover. She peeked from behind a wall and saw Sharon, now wearing a high-tech battle suit filled with weapons. Sharon fired more bullets, but Kizara blocked most of them with her sword and rushed into attack. But Sharon's armor was too strong, and Kizara's sword bounced off. Then, some weird dark slime came out of Sharon's suit and attacked Kizara. She tried cutting it, but one of the slime arms stabbed her in the leg. She backed off, shocked that her wound wasn't healing like usual. Sharon smirked and said that while powerful demons like Kizara are immune to normal weapons, they can still be hurt by demon-made attacks like the one she just used. Kizara tried to run, but Sharon blocked every path with more slime arms. Kizara raised her sword to fight back again, but Sharon was quicker and stabbed her in the chest, knocking her down. Just when Sharon was about to finish her off, a flash grenade went off nearby. Shu had arrived, weak but still standing. He pulled Kizara behind a pillar, and even though he could barely move, he kissed her, giving her all his energy. Shu collapsed drained, but Kizara suddenly started glowing. Her wounds healed fast, and her strength came back completely. Sharon fired at her again, but this time, Kizara dodged every bullet. She dashed in, slashing off one of Sharon's robot arms. Sharon panicked and tried to attack Shu, but Kizara blocked the hit and unleashed a fast combo of sword strikes. Sharon's armor started breaking apart like cardboard. Finally, Kizara stabbed her sword deep into Sharon's chest and completely destroyed the suit, knocking her out. Kizara picked Shu up and carried him to safety. Later, when Shu woke up, he asked Kizara why she had gone so hard on Sharon. Wasn't she just a normal person? But Kizara told him Sharon was no ordinary human. She was a powerful member of a secret group called the Celestial Abbey. That confused Shu. Why would someone from a group like that come to Bayron City? Kizara looked guilty, like she was hiding something. She quickly changed the subject and said they should go home and eat. Since she loves food, he agreed. Just moments later, Ayano showed up with 2 cups of coffee only to see that Kizara had already taken Shu home. A few days later, Shu was at home with Tetsuya and Miles. They talked about all the strange events that had happened. Tetsuya explained who Sharon really was and why she had come to Bayron. He also brought up the murder of a detective, saying that the victim might have been helping humans make deals with demons. Miles added that someone probably killed the detective to stop him from talking. While they talked, Kizara was in the kitchen making food. Tetsuya then asked Shu about the mystery person who always gave him secret info. Did Shu know who they really were? But Shu, because so many of his memories had been taken by Kizara, couldn't remember. Kizara was listening while cutting onions and started crying, but not just because of the onions. While the detectives were making a list of possible suspects, a black car was parked outside. Inside it, the mystery informant was spying on them. When Ayano suddenly pulled up in her car, the informant freaked out and drove away like a coward. Back inside, the list of suspects had names like Ayano, her mom Akino, and even the head of the anti-demon group. Kizara stormed over and circled Ayano's name, shouting that she was the most suspicious. Shu told her to calm down and stop saying mean stuff about his backup girlfriend. At that exact moment, Ayano walked in. She mentioned the strange car outside and then saw the suspect list. She was furious when she saw her name. Miles hesitated, but Tetsuya explained that they had to consider everyone. Kizara doubled down, saying she still believed Ayano was hiding something. Ayano was now fully angry. Later that day, Shu, Akino, and the anti-demon leader looked at the same list and realized their names were on it too. Shu felt awkward and apologized. Sometime after that, Shu went to visit Sharon in a locked cell. He warned her not to try anything funny because Kizara was right outside, ready to deal with her. Sharon just laughed and asked what he wanted. Shu demanded answers. Why was she in the city, and what were the demons planning? Sharon teased him, saying he probably didn't remember anything anymore since he kept giving Kizara his memories. Shu got mad and said Kizara only took unimportant memories, not the big ones from 12 years ago. Sharon then asked if he remembered something called Asmodeus. She claimed she had already told him about it 2 years ago. But Shu, struggling with missing memories, had no clue what she was talking about. That made him even more frustrated. Sharon laughed and said Kizara probably took that memory too because it was tied to something romantic between them. Now getting more upset, Shu finally asked who is Asmodeus. Sharon said that Shu was so focused on Kizara and his family that he was missing the bigger picture. She warned him that if he kept going like this, he'd never be able to live peacefully with Kizara. Shu snapped that he didn't ask for love advice. Sharon just smirked and told him the secret agent he was chasing wasn't working alone. That agent was being controlled by Asmodeus. She said Asmodeus was behind everything, someone who controlled demons inside the city while keeping it all hidden from the people. Shu leaned in and asked if she had any leads. Sharon gave him a mysterious clue, just enough to keep him chasing the truth. Later on, Tetsuya and Miles were sitting in a quiet office. Tetsuya looked stressed, trying to figure out who the real suspect could be. After a few minutes, Miles said goodbye and left. But Tetsuya stayed back, digging deeper into his research. Suddenly, something on his screen shocked him. Without wasting time, he rushed out of the room, determined to act. Not far away, hidden in the shadows, the same mysterious informant who had been outside Shu's house was secretly watching Tetsuya. Tetsuya jumped into his car and tried calling Shu, but the call didn't go through. He kept driving toward Shu's location and finally managed to get a signal. Over the phone, he told Shu they needed to meet right away. But before he could finish speaking, bang! A gunshot echoed through the line, making Shu panic. Shu immediately rushed to the location, bringing Kizara with him. When they got there, they were horrified to find Tetsuya dead in his car. Shu dropped to his knees dramatically, crushed by the loss. Suddenly, they spotted a shadowy figure sprinting across the parking lot. Without hesitation, Shu and Kizara chased after him. When they caught up, Shu realized it was the same informant who had been giving him secret tips all along. Thinking this man had killed Tetsuya, Shu demanded answers. They captured him, and to their surprise, the man revealed he was none other than Mikhail, the flashy rich guy who always showed off. Shu threatened to turn him in unless he told the truth. Mikhail insisted he wasn't the killer, and to prove it, he brought them to a hidden control center. Inside the building, Shu and Kizara were shocked. It was a high-tech surveillance hub where people watched live camera feeds from all over Bayron City. Mikhail smugly explained that this was how he always seemed to know everything. He had access to nearly every camera in the city. They pulled up footage from the moment Tetsuya was shot, but all they could see was a hooded figure pulling the trigger and walking away. No face, no clues. Shu was frustrated they were still no closer to solving the case. The next day, Shu attended Tetsuya's funeral. After the ceremony, Miles offered him a ride home. While sitting in the car, Shu noticed a tattoo on Miles's arm. It triggered a memory, one that made everything click. Shu stayed calm and asked quietly, "Why did you kill Tetsuya?" Miles sighed and admitted it. He said Tetsuya had found out that Miles was the only other person besides Shu who had direct access to demon-related intel. Once Miles realized Tetsuya had figured it out, he had no choice but to eliminate him, his own partner. Miles took Shu to a quiet park. Shu calmly told him the police had already surrounded the area, but Miles wasn't worried. He smirked, knowing regular cops wouldn't be able to stop him. Right then, he began transforming his body, turning into a terrifying demon form. Everyone nearby watched in horror. The police opened fire, but Miles blocked every bullet with a glowing shield of energy. Shu turned to Kizara and asked if there was any way to capture him alive, but Kizara said no. Miles had already crossed the line. He couldn't be saved. Suddenly, Miles started launching powerful attacks, most of them aimed straight at Ayano. She was badly injured. Just as he was about to land a finishing blow, Sharon zoomed in on a motorcycle and attacked Miles with her sword. But Sharon didn't realize that Miles could regenerate. He recovered in seconds and swung at her. Ayano jumped in at the last second, stopping his attack and giving Sharon time to escape. Shu knew it was time. He looked at Kizara and gave her the signal. He kissed her, sending all his energy into her, and told her to preserve Miles's memories before finishing him. Now fully powered, Kizara charged in. She slashed through the chains Miles had fired at Sharon and Ayano. Miles kicked her away, but she recovered fast and struck back. She dodged his attacks, cut off more of his chains, and then flew into the air. Miles punched her, but she blocked it mid-air, balanced herself, and stabbed him in the back. Miles yanked the sword out and threw her across the ground. Then he turned and charged at Shu, but Shu was ready. He lifted his gun and fired a perfect shot straight into Miles's head, killing him instantly. After the battle, Kizara walked over and placed her hand on the fallen demon's chest. She pulled out Miles's final memories. In that memory, a younger Shu watched Miles grow close to his family. Miles became like family to them. But everything changed when Miles's daughter got seriously sick. He spent all his time at the hospital, desperate to save her. One day, a powerful demon appeared, Asmodeus. The demon promised to cure Miles's daughter if Miles agreed to do whatever he was told. Out of love and fear, Miles accepted. That night, Miles was led to a dark cave, where Asmodeus appeared in the shape of Shu's mother. Shu's dad was already dying on the ground, and Asmodeus was about to kill little Kana, Shu's sister. Miles couldn't take it. He stepped in and stopped the demon, yelling that this wasn't part of the deal. Surprisingly, Asmodeus agreed and let Shu live. Miles picked up the unconscious boy and carried him out of the cave. Behind them, a huge explosion wiped out everything. Later, as promised, Miles's daughter recovered. To pay back his debt and hide his guilt, Miles started raising Shu as his own son. Back at the base, Shu and the others tried to figure out who Asmodeus really was and why Shu's father had died. Suddenly, Sharon stood up and opened a PowerPoint like she was about to give a school project. She explained that throughout history, one demon kept coming back over and over by taking control of different women. Every time this demon appeared, tons of other demons would follow, and the place would eventually be destroyed. Sharon said this demon had to be Asmodeus. Ayano guessed that Asmodeus first appeared in Bayron City 12 years ago, but her mom, Akino, interrupted and told her to stop talking. She said demons had already existed before that. Asmodeus had only come later, drawn by the city's powerful energy core. Akino believed the real answers were buried in the old mine that sank into the ocean 12 years ago. Hearing this, Ayano drove straight into town to find her friend Linhua. But Linhua was annoyed. Ayano pulled out photos of the ocean, pointing to where the mine used to be. She demanded the exact coordinates. Lin Hua told her the area was restricted. Civilians weren't allowed near it. "This isn't a movie," she said. But Ayano wasn't backing down. She drove to a nearby bridge and asked again why had the government hidden this from the public. Lin Hua refused to answer. Ayano suddenly pulled a gun and demanded the coordinates again. Lin Hua, now terrified, swore she didn't know the exact location. Out of nowhere, a missile hit the road ahead. Ayano swerved just in time. Shocked, she accused Lin Hua of setting her up. But Lin Hua looked just as scared. Before they could figure out what was happening, a blond man with a robotic arm crashed onto their car. He was standing on top of a tank. Nearby, a loud soldier and a guy with an afro shouted at Ayano, saying she was surrounded and that even her mom's HQ was under attack. Suddenly, Mikhail, the same annoying rich guy, appeared on a screen. He casually asked Lin Hua if she was okay. Lin Hua nervously said she was just out driving with her friend. Mikhail didn't care. He told Ayano to surrender or her mom would be sent to Nirvana. Ayano was overwhelmed. She almost stepped out of the car. But then, out of nowhere, a huge military helicopter appeared in the sky and opened fire on the enemy. Everyone stopped in shock. Ayano looked up and saw Shu was flying the helicopter. Her mom's voice came through the radio, telling her to get on board. At the same time, Lin Hua sent the exact coordinates of the sunken mine to Ayano's phone. Ayano and Shu flew off together, heading toward the underwater ruins. While Shu and Ayano flew toward the underwater mine, Kizara and Sharon were heading to the same place by boat. Kizara looked serious. She told Sharon that she didn't want Shu to get hurt anymore and that she'd rescue Kana herself, no matter what. Sharon asked her for the flash drive, and Kizara handed it over. Sharon then explained something terrifying. She showed Kizara a pattern that appeared during every demon outbreak. It looked like Asmodeus, the demon behind everything, was trying to draw something using all the destruction across the world. And now, the final part of that pattern was almost complete right where the sunken mine was. Sharon revealed that Asmodeus had possessed Shu's mom 16 years ago. Kana was born after that, which meant she was half demon. But Shu had been born earlier, which made him fully human. Sharon believed Asmodeus's plan was to build a world where demons and humans could live together. But in reality, this dream was impossible. And Kana, who was likely still alive at the bottom of the sea, was the key to opening a gate that could let millions of demons invade the city. Eventually, Kizara and Sharon arrived at the mine and explored the dark tunnels. In the center, they found a young girl unconscious and tied up. It was Kana. Kizara was overwhelmed and ran toward her, but something felt wrong. She quickly turned around and blocked a sudden kick from Sharon. Sharon told her Kana couldn't be allowed to live. She was too dangerous, and even if they saved her now, she could still be used later to open the gate. But Kizara refused. She said Kana was Shu's little sister, the only family he had left, and she wouldn't let anyone hurt her. Meanwhile, Mikhail learned about Kana and the threat she posed. Without waiting, he pressed a button that launched a nuclear satellite strike aimed right at the island. Back in the cave, Kana's body started glowing. Her back burst open and a massive demon hand came out just as the satellite beam hit. The explosion happened right in front of Shu and Ayano, but when the smoke cleared, the island was still there. Suddenly, a gigantic demon hand shot up from the ground, reaching into the sky. Kizara, now in her demon form, flew above the battlefield carrying Sharon. Asmodeus had completely taken over Kana's body. Sharon fought hard, cutting through every attack. Kizara jumped in, slashing through waves of monsters with her sword. Shu, watching from the helicopter, told Ayano to take over flying. Then he jumped down to help. Sharon got knocked down and slammed into the ground. Kizara rushed in to help, but suddenly a clone of herself appeared and grabbed her from behind. The clone started choking her. Then, a gunshot rang out. Shu had shot the clone. He ran to Kizara and held her in his arms. He told her to kiss him and take his energy. He said he didn't care how many memories he lost, he just wanted to save her. But Kizara started crying. She said she couldn't do it anymore. She was scared he would forget who he really was. Before they could decide anything, Kizara was suddenly stabbed through the back by a spear. Blood poured from her mouth. Behind her stood Kana, now completely possessed by Asmodeus. Kizara tried to pull the spear out, but it was too painful. She started seeing memories of younger Shu. The air around them began glowing like starlight. Ayano flew the helicopter close to where they were and yelled at Shu to climb aboard. But Shu refused. He looked at Kizara and said he wasn't going to leave her. Kizara, bleeding and barely conscious, told him to save himself. But Shu wouldn't move. Suddenly, Sharon ran up from behind, grabbed Shu, and hooked him to the helicopter. As they flew away, the giant demon hand vanished. leaving Kizara still stuck on the ground with the spear through her chest. Kana stared at her coldly. Kizara gripped the spear again. Shu's memories suddenly came rushing into her mind. She saw everything Shu had once been with, clapping both Ayano and Sharon. Furious, Kizara ripped the spear out and faced Kana with rage. She raised her weapon to kill her but stopped when she remembered Kana was Shu's sister. That pause gave Kana just enough time to charge a huge energy blast. She fired it straight at Kizara, sending her flying into the ocean. Shu, hanging from the helicopter, could only watch helplessly as she disappeared below. Kana flew up and blocked their path. She got ready to attack the chopper. Ayano screamed that Shu would die if she fired. Kana paused and looked at Shu. But before anything else could happen, a giant laser blasted her from the side. Mikhail, watching from a control room, had fired the weapon again. He decided Kana was too dangerous to let live. But when the smoke cleared, Kana was still there, floating in the air. Frustrated, Mikhail ordered another attack. This time, the blast destroyed Kana's wings and she dropped into the ocean next to Kizara. Later, Shu, Ayano, and Sharon rushed Kizara to a hospital. Sharon told the doctors she had no pulse and no brain activity. Even her demon healing wasn't working. Ayano asked if she would wake up. Sharon said they didn't know. Kizara wasn't fully human, so no one could be sure what would happen. Ayano then asked about Kana. Satellite scans showed her body floating 200 meters underwater. Sharon said Kana probably wasn't dead. She had survived being stabbed through the chest for 12 years, so one laser wouldn't stop her. She warned that Kana would definitely come back and next time, she could destroy the whole city. Ayano, still hopeful, asked if there was any way Kana could live a normal human life. Sharon said maybe, but only if someone could bring back her human side. But her group, the Celestial Abbey, saw Kana as an S-rank threat. They would send agents to kill her soon. Sharon feared they might be too late. Meanwhile, Mikhail was working on a plan to defend the city. His sister Linhua suggested maybe Kana's human side could be saved. But Mikhail said the risk was too high. She could destroy everything. He admitted he had already lied to the public, telling them there had been a volcanic eruption underwater to stop people from panicking. Back at the hospital, Shu sat next to Kizara's bed, holding her hand. He quietly said the city wasn't worth saving without her. He promised that if she woke up, they'd run away together and leave all this behind. Then Kizara stirred. Her eyes slowly opened. She smiled and said she only cared about Shu and that she would always protect him. Shu hugged her tight. She told him to stop fighting demons and live a peaceful life. He smiled and agreed. He said they'd leave it all behind. Kizara asked if he was sure. He nodded. They kissed. But instead of losing memories like before, Shu suddenly regained all of them. He tried to stop her, but Kizara kept kissing him, holding him still. More and more memories came back. He remembered breaking up with Ayano at a restaurant, telling her their relationship wasn't working. Ayano had cried, thinking it was because she made bad sandwiches. But Shu had explained that together they could only fight weak demons. He needed to grow on his own. Then he remembered meeting Sharon while fighting a frozen demon which was actually Kizara's body. Shu lied, saying he was only there for treasure and teamed up with Ayano. But then he secretly took Kizara's body back to his place. He used a magic circle and a dark spell book to bring her back to life. To control her, he paid with his memories. He planned to use Kizara as his weapon to climb the ranks in Bayron City. One day, he even told Ayano that demons were better than humans. He bragged that he lived with Kizara. Ayano warned him that he was losing his real self. But Shu only smiled and said he had a backup plan in case anything went wrong. Later, Shu gave Kizara a special contract book. He told her it would make their magic routine easier, just one ritual every 6 hours. He made it sound simple, like it wasn't a big deal. But Kizara, who always reads everything carefully, spotted something strange. On the last page, using her demon eyes, she saw a tiny hidden rule. Shu could cancel the contract all by himself. During the ritual, Shu lied and said they could both cancel it together. He expected her to touch his head, but instead Kizara kissed him. Shu was confused, but she smiled and told him she had changed the contract rules. Now, her powers would activate with kisses and only she could cancel the contract. Back in the present, Shu grabbed Kizara and asked what was going on. But it was already too late. Kizara had cancelled the contract on her own, and as a result, she lost all her memories of Shu. She didn't remember anything, who he was, what they shared, or even her own name. Shu was left with all their memories, but to her, he was just a stranger. Far away, Kana finally woke up. She flew into the sky and shot a massive energy beam that destroyed an airport. Meanwhile, Mikhail, who hadn't done much before, finally acted. He let Ayano's mom out of jail. She was the only one who could lead the army and defend the city. At the hospital, Shu tried to help Kizaru remember, but she didn't even know her own name. Shu kissed her forehead, picked up her sword, and left the room. He was ready to face Kana on his own. Ayano was already suited up and standing by the ocean, waiting. Sharon drove up on her motorcycle and said she was leaving. She was tired of all the fighting and wanted to escape the city. At the same time, Shu ordered new gear from Amazon. Thanks to super fast delivery, it arrived right away. He got in the truck and started unpacking everything. As Kana got close to the city, Ayano's mom gave the signal to attack. Helicopters and soldiers opened fire, filling the sky with smoke. But when the smoke cleared, Kana was still floating completely unharmed. A glowing energy shield was protecting her. Mikhail told them to keep firing. They couldn't let Kana reach the city. But no matter how much they attacked, it didn't work. She blocked everything. Ayano decided to try something stronger. She fired a huge rocket, and this time, it worked. Kana's shield broke, and she looked really angry. Kana stared at Ayano and started charging up her next blast. Ayano ran and hid behind a tank, just barely escaping. The army kept firing, but Kana flew past them, chasing Ayano. Ayano turned and shot at her, but nothing worked. Then, her gun jammed. Kana got close and charged up a huge beam right in front of her. It would have ended everything, but Shu arrived just in time. He grabbed Ayano and pulled her away before the blast hit. They landed on a rooftop. Shu told Ayano that all his memories were back, but Kizaru didn't remember anything. Ayano asked what they should do now. Shu said they had to give it everything they had. Maybe they could still help Kana regain control. He said they would lead her to an old power plant, so no civilians would get hurt. Ayano was confused. Why would Kana follow them? Sharon suddenly showed up and explained Kana would come because she hated Ayano and every other girl Shu had been close to. Sharon said that even when Kana was sealed underwater, she could see everything Shu did. She was jealous, deep down like a little girl who didn't want to share her brother. Right then, Kana crashed through a building, looking for Ayano, but the military shot her in the face with a missile. She got even angrier and called out a bunch of demon monsters to distract the soldiers while she kept searching. Suddenly, Shu flew in on a hoverboard and faced Kana. She raised her arm to blast him, but she couldn't do it. Shu calmly told her that she was his only family, and he just wanted to stay by her side. Kana paused, but it wasn't enough. Shu said sorry for what was coming next. Tentacles grabbed Kana, Ayano fired missiles, and Shu charged with his sword. Kana broke free and flew up, summoning her magical spear. She chased her on the hoverboard. The two clashed in the sky, hitting each other with magic and swords. Shu started falling back, and Kana followed, blasting him with magic. Suddenly, Sharon slammed Kana into a wall with her tentacles. Ayano shot her again. Kana fired back, but Shu blocked it with his sword. He kept dodging and charging at her, but Kana knocked him back hard. She moved in to finish him, but Ayano and Sharon shot her again from behind, giving Shu another chance. He tried again but froze. He couldn't hurt his sister. Kana kicked him to the ground. She rushed at him again, but Sharon protected him. Then Ayano blasted Kana again, buying them more time. Shu got up and tried to fight again, but Kana threw him into a tree. Then she went after Ayano. Suddenly, Kizaru appeared and blocked Kana's spear. Everyone was shocked to see her. Kizaru and Kana fought fiercely in the air, clashing with energy and swords. Kana blasted Kizaru down. Shu caught her and told her the only way to stop Kana was to stab her in the heart. Kizaru nodded and flew toward Kana, dodging attacks while Shu covered her with gunfire. She slashed but missed. Kana flew upward. Sharon kicked her midair, and the army fired again, knocking her down. In a rage, Kana sent 3 more demons into the city. Sharon and Ayano rushed to stop them. Shu and Kizaru stayed to fight Kana. Shu kissed Kizaru, unlocking her full powers. She flew up at full speed, battling Kana in the sky. Shu shouted for her to bring Kana close. Kana charged forward. Shu shot his anti-demon gun and hit her. She dropped. Kizaru flew down and stabbed her in the chest, finally ending the battle. Afterward, Kana was captured and locked deep underground. Sharon went back to her base. Shu visited the graves of his parents and Miles. Outside the graveyard, Kizaru, still with no memory, waited for him. They walked back to Shu's place. But when they entered, they saw something shocking. Kana, now in her human form, was sitting in the kitchen, stuffing her face with food. She had escaped. Kizaru stared at her. Then Ayano walked in too, and just like that it was time for a new round. And that's where this video ends. Watch this following video and I'll see you in the next one.